Okay, so you want a big pan and a pot for your spaghetti. Colander to strain your spaghetti after it's cooked, and a kettle to heat up your water for the spaghetti, make it a bit easier. You want a knife, one for your meat, one for your veg. Obviously some meat, I've got pork steaks, got the capsicum or bell pepper, depending on how you call it. Got a carrot, of course, peeler to peel the carrot, and an onion, but use half of that. And of course, a big knife to chop it all up. Got some nice olive oil, but you can get some cheap sunflower oil, but don't buy vegetable oil, it's bad. Some salt and passata, which is tomato puree effectively, but really cheap. And got some fancy spices, make it a bit easier, make it taste nicer, but you don't have to use these. Oyster sauce, balsamic, garlic granules, Italian seasoning, basil, use those later. Right, put the kettle on, put some oil into the pan, like that, and put that on a high heat, so you can heat up the oil. While that's happening, the onion. First, you're going to chop the onion in half, so you can put away half of it to use at a later date. And you want to get a plastic bag, just put it in the plastic bag, carefully, twist the end off, tuck it under, make a nice seal, and then you can just put that in your fridge. And that'll last a good few days. The oil's starting to get hot here, as you can see it's moving around quite easily, so it's about time to turn down the pan, because I'm not using it yet. Yep. And the kettle is done too, so let's put in the hot water for the spaghetti. I want to fill more than half full, maybe about 2/3. Doesn't really matter how much water you put in, you just drain off the rest of it. It's better to put in too much than too little, so if you're not sure, just put in more. The oil is popping, I'm not sure if you heard that, so I'm going to turn it down to the lowest heat and start using it. Put in lots of salt. It's not for any flavouring, but it increases the boiling temperature of the water, so you get a better and faster cooking with the spaghetti, because the water's hotter. Without it actually boiling away. And I'm going to get the spaghetti. Now I'm going to put the water to a high heat so it can boil again. Then you get the spaghetti. You want to get a good handful of it. And just put it in about that much. Right, now to chop the onion. I'm going to peel off the brown layers. You can put them in, they're not particularly bad, but they're just papery and not very pleasant. You want to chop the ends off. Just be careful to keep your fingers out of the way, as always. Nice and easy. And just chuck them to the side, and that makes it really easy to get off the rest of the brown layers of the skin. So just get your thumb in there, just grab it and peel it all off until you get to nice, thick, juicy white layers. So that's the bit you actually want to cook with. Now just slice the onion. Okay, let's keep your fingers out of the way. It gets a bit dangerous at the end because of the shape of it. It might slide off. So just kind of pinch around the knife and you should be good. Just go slow and be careful. Grab it all up, bunch it together, and slice along again to dice it. And that's going to go in the pan, which should now be hot. I'm going to turn the pan out a little bit, put it on about mid-heat. Stir it around until it gets a light brown sort of colour. Putting in garlic granules, this is when you put them in. Just make sure to keep on moving things around in the pan whenever you've got spare moments. Helps keep it all from burning. Probably the most important thing to make sure everything's well cooked. And now chop up the meat. Just slice it off and chop it up into nice chunks. Makes it cook faster and just makes it easier to eat rather than putting it in a whole steak. The meat I'm using is frozen. That's mostly a coincidence, but it's also just so it'll take a bit longer to cook so I can explain things as I'm going. Take my time with it. You can put in fresh meats and it'll work just the same. just put that straight in the pan and add some salt. I've put it out on a plate there to make it a bit clearer how much I'm putting in. It's just a few pinches. I'm not able to see it too well because it's white on white, but didn't have two hands, so I couldn't pour it out into my hand first, which is what I'd normally do. But you just put a few pinches of salt in, just add a little bit more flavour. You can put it in somewhere with the onion as well if you want, but this is normally when you put it in with the meat. And make sure you stir everything around, and you want to make sure that's moving so the meat gets cooked on all sides. And you add in some Worcester sauce, that's a bit extra flavour at this point. Just put in enough to coat all the meat, more or less. And now I can get to the onion. Now, just some onion there. Onion? Did I say onion? Carrot. We're chopping up the carrot. So as always, make sure to push things around. You can see things starting to get a bit brown on the meat. You want to make sure if it's brown on one side, give it a little turn over onto a pinker side so it gets cooked evenly. The most important thing before putting in anything else is to make sure that all the red sides of the meat have been turned to that light brown colour, because that means all of the bacteria on the meat that you have to watch out for that give you the food poisoning is on the outside of the meat. So as long as that's cooked, you shouldn't have to worry too much about the contamination. And so put everything else in. And make sure your spaghetti is boiling there. You see I've pushed it down into the pan because it's soft, and I can get to chopping up the carrot. Now, first of all, we want to peel it. So just push gently and just slide it down from the top to the bottom. And just keep on going until you've gone around the whole carrot. And you get something that looks like that. Now you want to get your knife, same knife as the onion, just hack off the top and the bottom, because they're usually a bit gritty, just not very pleasant to eat. Shouldn't be too much of a problem if you do eat them, but they're just not that pleasant, and then just slice it. Now this carrot's a bit big. It probably would have worked better if I then cut the pieces in half, but I didn't. So just, as always, making sure you're pushing things around. The meat's not quite cooked on the outside yet, so I'm not going to put the carrots in just yet. As I said, if there's still red there, and you haven't cooked the outside, and there's still a small risk of getting some contamination in there, which you don't want. Whereas onion cooks really easily, so you don't have to worry too much about having the onion here in there already, because that onion's basically cooked already. I like putting in the onion early on, so you get a nice sweet caramelized onion, and then also because of the texture, it makes up a nice consistency for the sauce. But you can put it in a bit later if you want some crispier, more solid pieces of onion. I'd put it like this. Once you put in all the carrots now, it has actually turned brown. Meat, as always, stir everything around, make sure everything's mixed together so everything cooks nice and evenly and nothing burns. Just keep pushing it around. This is where I'd add in the balsamic vinegar. I seem to have forgotten that. So then I'm just going to chop up this capsicum. Just chop off the end and carefully chop off the sides, and just go around the whole capsicum like that, and you're left with just the core. Sometimes you end up with a bit that has some of the white stuff from the core left on there still. It's not terrible to eat that, it's just not quite as nice as the actual flesh of the capsicum or bell pepper. So just get your knife in there and hold on to it and just slide it along the surface, and you can just strip off that. If you've got some seed left in there, just bash it against the bench, and that should knock off all the seeds out. You want to cut along and slice along it. Do that for all those strips you got there. And there it is. I remember the balsamic vinegar. Now put in more of this than you did with the Worcester sauce. With balsamic vinegars, a little bit weaker. Again, just covering all the carrots with it. Not too worried about getting it on the meat, because it's mostly there to complement the carrots. Of course, it does add to the sauce later on, but carrots and balsamic vinegar just go really well together. You even put some in when you're just boiling them in a pan. So again, just pushing everything around, making sure it's all nice and mixed together, getting the balsamic vinegar in there, and checking on the spaghetti. And it looks really soft, so I'm going to think that's about done. Yep, the spatula cut right through the spaghetti there. Yep, that's definitely done. So now I'm going to get the colander, put that over the sink so we don't get hot water everywhere. And we just grab the pan, after turning it off, of course. We just grab the pan, carefully flick it over because it's full of hot water, and pour it out into the colander. Carefully so it doesn't splash everywhere. Then, hopefully, there shouldn't be too much water there. Shake it off a little bit to get some drips out. Then just put that straight back in the pan so we're not clogging up the sink. And I can go back on the stove like that. And that spaghetti is done. Ready for when we finish everything else. It's alright to have it like this, it'll stay hot for a good while. Carrots still need to be a little bit softer for putting the rest of the ingredients. It looks about ready now. I'm going to put in capsicum. Capsicum cooks really quickly, and you don't tend to want to leave it in for too long, otherwise it starts to get a bit rubbery. You just want it to be in there for long enough to get soft, and you normally want to put it in there before you turn it to a low heat, which you're going to do after putting in the passata. And you generally do it when you put in your sauce, because otherwise the sauce starts boiling away, and everything starts to burn and everything just goes badly. So we open up the passata packet with a pair of scissors, and put in about half of it. If you want to measure this out, it's 250 grams, or 250 mils. For this passata packet, but you can check your passata packets. This should be around the same amount, and it's just convenient to use about half of it, because then you have the other half to use later on. A bit more. That should be about it. And the convenient thing with the passata packets is, because of how it's folded up initially, you're able to just squeeze together the top and fold it over, make a sort of seal, sort of from spilling everywhere, and after that you can just put it in the fridge and it'll keep for a good few days for use in a later dish. Right, now we add in some seasoning. Got some Italian seasoning here, which is a nice variety of flavours, good substitute for actually choosing what goes in. And then we've got the basil. Basil goes in everything, just everything that has tomato, and it's good stuff. And with that, you can stir it in and leave it for as long as you want, because it's about basically done there. Then you're just waiting for, leave it for as long as you want for all the flavours to soak in and for the carrots to get nice and soft.